Hi, it's your host, Derick Gant of the 24K Life podcast. We are bringing you the people, the ideas, the tools, the things, the insights that we know will help you elevate your life, both personally, both for your communities, for your families. That's our goal. That's our mission, is to bring you insights and tools, as well as inspirational and insightful people. And today, there is no exception to what we're trying to do. Now, before I tell you who we're bringing in, I'd ask you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're on our YouTube channel, or subscribe to our podcast on Apple or Spotify. We are excited to expand our network and expand the amount of people that are getting a hold of the content that we like to deliver. So we're asking you to do that. And with that, we are bringing in Mr. Jim Marshal. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Derick.
How are you today?
Great.
All right. So Jim has discovered an unknown natural phenomena which greatly aid in the understanding of people, and from which he created the revolutionary practice, philosophical system, and published it. And it is called Septemics. Now, I know a lot about a lot of things, or I know a little bit about a lot of things. I don't know anything about Septemics. So, Jim, tell us, what is Septemics?
Okay. Septemics is a philosophical science based on the fact that many phenomena related to human beings occur in a sequence of 7 levels.
Okay.
Literally, the word Septemics means of or pertaining to 7. Septemics comprises a collection of scales or hierarchies, each of which breaks down various human phenomena into a hierarchy of 7 steps. There are 35 such scales, each of which is unique. And together, they span the spectrum of human experience, by which I mean any problem, difficulty, dilemma in the life of any human being can successfully be analyzed by one or more of these scales.
Okay.
So it's extremely useful.
So, can you put that into layman's terms? Like, what I understand the 7 levels. I can appreciate that. Any problem that one might have, can you give us an example of what you mean? And also, more specifically, let's start with what's polymathic.
Okay. A polymath is someone who's learned in many disparate subjects.
Okay.
If you want, I can tell you my areas of expertise. It's kind of a long list.
Oh, I know it's a long list. Why don't you give us the highlights?
Okay. I'm a polymathic intellectual whose areas of expertise include psychology, philosophy, theology, parapsychology, science, engineering, mathematics, law, literature, history, metaphysics, military science, political science, physical culture, education, organization, and music. And I hold a Bachelor of Science cum laude from City University of New York.
Wow. Now, when I read your bio, it said that you have well over, and now I know why you have well over 50,000 hours of study and expertise.
Yes. Yeah. Now that relates specifically to my knowledge in the area of human potential, human phenomena, and human development. That's what the 50,000 hours refers to.
Okay. So
go ahead.
No. So tell me about this human development, like this potential that we have, and how you apply the 7 steps or 7 levels, I apologize, for us to become better. Because this is right up my alley. I mean, this is right up my alley of helping people become better.
Right. Well, actually, there are 2 different things here. One issue is my career as a human development engineer. I was accepted into engineering school at the age of 16, which I attended on scholarship. And of course, I thought at that time that I was going to be engineering physical things, such as electrons, airfoils, motors, and such. But by the time I had my bachelor's degree, I decided I wanted to engineer nothing physical, but rather the human psyche, because it is the area of greatest unknown. It is the area in which we are failing miserably, and it is the area which causes 95% of the problems in industrialized society.
Okay.
Well, we're not starving to death and being eaten by lions and things like that.
Right.
Most of our problems are because people don't understand people, don't understand the wife, don't understand the husband, don't understand the son, the daughter, the boss, the next door neighbor, the father, the mother, and so forth. And this cumulatively creates havoc in most people's lives.
Right.
So, to make a long story short, I had a long career as a human development engineer, working one-on-one with hundreds of clients of every description, cumulatively for thousands of hours.
Mm-hmm.
All of my clients improved as a result of the work we did. Now, I started to notice, just incidentally, as I was working with my clients, that my clients would improve in ways that were predictable to me. Now, I never told this to anyone. I kept this to myself, but I made notes.
Okay.
And as the decades rolled by, I came to realize that the client would be at a specific level on a specific scale that I knew. And so I would know the outcome of the session before it occurred, because the client would go to the next level up on the scale that I had already observed and written down. Of course, this made me only better at what I did.
Right.
So by 1995, I had been doing this for a long time. A couple of things happened. One thing that happened was I realized that there's one scale in particular that I had that had 6 levels, that I realized one day it had a 7th level. And when I inserted that 7th level into the 6th level scale, and by the way, it was obvious to me where to insert it, that scale manifested mathematically. Now, I should tell you, I took 26 semesters of math. Okay, I think in math. I understand math. The whole point of math is that you start with a formula or an equation, and you coax data out of it. That's how Einstein got E equals mc squared. It was done mathematically. And any mathematician knows that sequence, that famous sequence, how he got to it.
Right.
Now, so what happened is when I saw the mathematics in this, number one, it went from being a scale to being a plane, which is to say all this data jumped out at me. All these mathematical implications appeared without my really having to do much more. Then I said, whoa, I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, it's natural law, because anything that has mathematics embedded in it is natural law. Like, for example, the Fibonacci sequence.
Okay.
So I then said, if this is natural law, I wonder how many of these other scales that I have, which varied in length between 3 and 7 levels, are actually 7-level scales that had not been developed all the way, because I wasn't developing anything. I was developing my clients and making notes. So knowing what I was looking for, I then inspected these scales, and in a short period of time, each of them went to 7 levels, and as each one did, it manifested mathematically. So then I said, wait a minute, this is a whole new subject. Nobody had found this before.
Right.
Now, you have to realize that each of these scales is unique, and there are 35 of them. So between them, I could easily demonstrate to you, it covers all of human phenomena, which is why it's universally applicable.
Okay.
So I suddenly had this state, and I realized that I could go from helping people by the hundreds, which is what I had been doing as human development engineer, to helping people by the millions if I put this data in a book and get it out. So the first transcript of it was completed in December of 95, and I sent it to colleagues of mine, all of whom had graduate degrees in a variety of subjects. And they all responded very positively. They had different responses, but they were all extremely positive. And this confirmed what I thought, which is that I had discovered a new subject that was of great use to anyone who could read English.
Okay.
So I spent the next 25 years of my life writing this book.
Wow.
Because you have to realize, first I had to discover the phenomena. And I've sort of told you a little bit about how that happened.
Right.
Then, having had the phenomena, then I had to use that to craft a viable, workable philosophic system. Now, you have to understand, as an engineer, I am a dyed-in-the-wool engineer. I think like an engineer. I'm only interested as an engineer in facts and results. I'm
Okay.
not impressed with opinions or beliefs. Everybody has them, and to engineering, they're irrelevant. So I spent 20 years crafting this philosophic system to get it foolproof. Now you have to realize that a lot of the work was, I had the scales. They had just presented themselves to me empirically. But a scale by itself doesn't tell you too much. So I had to work out all of the permutations and combinations and implications of each of these scales, which was a lot of work. For example, each scale is on a different axis. Well, I had to define the axis. In other words, what is this measuring, these 7 levels? The 7 levels of what?
Right.
So that was a lot of work. But the most time-consuming part of this was expressing this in a way that would make sense to the average reader, because I have had a lifetime of helping people. And my mission from when I first started writing the book was to create this data in a way that would help the average reader.
Okay.
I know I succeeded because I have been watching the results of this for 27 and a half years. People get this. It's not obscure. It's not hard to grasp. If you can read English reasonably well and you want to improve yourself or others, this is for you.
So can you give us
So,
an example of something that we could relate to?
sure. Let's say you have a buddy who's having romance problems, right?
Okay. Right.
Problem. You say, Fred, come here. Let me show you something. You open up the book to the scale of relationships. You say, look at this. He's going to probably say, you mean there's a scale of relationship? I didn't know that. And you could say to him, well, now, this relationship that you keep telling me you're having all this trouble with, where is it on this scale? See, you can define the relationship in one of these 7 levels.
Okay.
Now, what will probably happen is in a matter of seconds, he'll say something to you like, well, I'm not sure, but it's either 3, 4, or 5, something like that. In other words, he'll give you a bracket.
Right.
Or he may give it to you in a negative sense. He'll say, well, I know for sure it's not 1, 2, or 3. See, he just threw out 3 levels. That's progress.
Okay.
Now you say to him, well, look, let's see if you can get this exactly, because this will help you. So you see, now he's interested because you're offering to help him. You haven't asked him for any money. This thing is right in front of him. You've already showed him that there's data he didn't know anything about. So you say, why don't you read the chapter? It's not that long. So he reads the chapter. You might want to help him with that as a tutor, right?
Right.
So he reads the chapter, and then you say to him, look, Fred, let's look at the scale again and see if you can tell me exactly where this relationship is. And at that point, he probably will say to you, well, now that we did this, I can see we're at level 5. And then he will give you a realization like, no wonder we're having trouble. That's close to the bottom. That's not such a good level, you see?
Okay.
So he had just had an epiphany about this problem. So it's less of a problem to him because he understands it better. Then you could say to him, let's have you look at the scale of sexuality. Where are you on this scale? And he'll say, you mean there's a scale of sexuality? Yeah, here it is. Where are you? Now, you might say to him, you don't have to tell me, But you look at it and you figure it out. And then he's probably going to say something like, well, I don't know, I'm either at 3 or 4. See, in a matter of seconds, he'll get that. He just threw out 5 levels, which is
Right.
progress. See? Then you can say to him, well, look, read the chapter, and then maybe you can get it exact. So he'll read the chapter. You might want to help him as a tutor, and then come back and you say, okay, so where are you? You don't have to tell me, but you should know for yourself. Now, if you're good friends, he might say to you, well, now that I look at this, I can see that I'm at level 4. And he will have a realization. He'll say, well, that explains why boppity 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 bop. See, every time this happens, the person has a realization because you just clarified a whole section of his life with specificity, you see?
Right. Yeah.
Then I would say to him, now, your girlfriend, Mary Jane, where is she on this scale? And I'll say, oh, yeah, let's look at this, Now, again, he might find a bracket, but since he's already read the chapter, he might just be able to say, well, because he knows this girl, right? He's been
Right.
putting up with her for a long time. So he'll say, she's at level 5. No wonder we're having trouble. We're at different levels. These levels aren't compatible. Now, just between the two of us, I can tell you, I already know. If 2 people are not compatible on this scale, they cannot have a viable romantic relationship. Impossible. They don't
Wow.
have to be at the same level, but they have to be at a compatible level. And if you look at that scale, it's obvious that some of these levels are not compatible.
Wow.
So he might say, no wonder we're having trouble. I'm at this level and she's at that level. And that conflicts, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So then you could say to him, okay, look, let's move you up 1 level. Now, let's say he said he's at level 4. So his target in this area of his life becomes level 3. That's what is aspirational to him. And if he tries, he will be able to get to level 3. Now,
Is that because there's tools in the book to tell him how to get to level 3? Okay.
Yes. Now, you have to realize if he tried to get to level 1 or 2, he would fail because it's too steep a gradient.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the axioms of this subject is that you can never skip a level. Sometimes it may seem like you skipped a level because you went through quickly or easily or without noticing it, but you went through nevertheless. Think of it this way. If you're on the 1st floor and you want to go to the 5th floor, one way or another, you have to go through the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. Whether you take the elevator, the escalator, the stairs, or go outside the building and use a rope ladder, right? You've got to go. Okay, so that's how these scales are. This is actually helpful to you because it focuses your attention on something that you can achieve. It's not vague. Now, of course, nobody's going to want to go down scale. It's obvious when you look at these scales that the lower scales are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They're filled with insanity and criminality and all the things that wreck society are in these lower levels. So nobody's going to want to go down. So the person always wants to go up. And you could also say to him, you could get Mary Jane to go from level 4 up to level 3, and then you would be compatible.
Mm-hmm.
And then he could go to her with the book and say, come here, let me show you something. Take a look at this. And she'll say, you mean there's a scale of sexual?
Exactly.
And he can say to her, yeah, and you don't have to tell me, but take a look at it and see where you are, you see? Mm-hmm. And he can help her the way you helped him. So you might be able to save this relationship because she might be able to go from 4 up to 3 and then they're at the same level.
So tell me how you personally use Septemics on a regular basis. I mean, do you refer to the book for issues that you're having, or do you just use it for clients? I mean, are you living a perfect life? And I'm not being facetious. I'm just asking because it sounds like this book is the book of answers. I mean, it sounds like the book of life to me.
Yes. Each one of these scales is a roadmap for the corresponding area of life. So it's a pathway to success. So once you know what level you're at, you must get it exactly. Then it opens the pathway to move up to the next level. And once you're at that level, that opens a pathway to move up to the level above that.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I use this continuously, whether I want to or not.
Okay.
And let me tell you what I mean. Let's say you had a garden and you said, Jim, come over, look at my garden, right? So I go over and I go, oh, Derick's garden. He's got pansies, he's got roses, he's got tulips, right? So I'm identifying all these botanical phenomena because I know them. If I didn't know that, they would just be flowers to me. You know, it's funny, but I had a buddy who was a gardener, had his own landscaping nursery business. So he knew everything there was about plants, right? So my girlfriend was there and we were going around the garden and she said, oh, what are these? And he looked at it and he said, they're flowers. And she said, no, I mean, what type of flower is this? You know,
Right.
He said, oh, and he told her. But you see, once you know this data, it jumps out in front of you. Like I'll be standing in line at the grocery store, for example.
Okay.
There's people behind me that are having a discussion. I will be able to spot one of those guys on the scale of literacy just by listening to him speak for 5 minutes. I don't need to look in the book. I wrote the book.
Right.
I know this stuff. So in terms of referring to the book, I don't often have to refer to the book. Once in a while, I might have to refer to the book. But I use this stuff day in and day out. Every time I see somebody, I'm spotting them.
So do you consider yourself a 1 on all 35 levels?
Well, first of all, let me say this. I urge everyone never to tell anyone the level of any living person on any scale.
Okay.
It's unethical and it's counterproductive.
Okay.
So there, like, for example, I have a very, very close relationship with my son. Very close, okay? So he knows my level on one scale in particular, and I know his because we're like so close, you know?
Right.
So, you know, I tell him everything and he tells me everything because we're father and son. So that's an exception. Other than that, I never tell anybody my level on any scale, and I would never tell anybody your level on any scale.
Okay. Now, how old is your son?
He's 31.
And does he use, I know you guys are super close, so I would have to assume he uses the book to help him to maneuver through his life.
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
But he doesn't use it the way I use it because I invented it. So it's like me using this is like telling you what my name is, you know. I don't have to be conscious, you know. You can wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, what's your name? And I'm going to tell you, you know.
Right.
But to him, it's just a book, you know. So he's read the book. He knows the book. He uses the book. But you have to understand he's a young entrepreneur in the tech business. He has his own company. So, you know, he works like to the point of collapse pretty much 7 days a week.
Okay.
If you know anything about entrepreneurs. So,
right.
Yeah. So, you know, he doesn't really have a lot of time. So he's busy, you know, making his millions. But at some point, I think he probably, you know, I'm at a much more leisurely state of life. You know, I've kind of made my pile already. So I don't have a lot of pressure on me as he does at the age of 31. But this is extremely useful because every person is at some level on every scale.
Okay.
Think about that. Think about how useful that is. So I'll give you an example. Let's say a guy is dating a girl, right? And they're talking about marriage. Wouldn't it be good for him to know her motivation?
Yes, of course.
Why does she want to marry him? There are 7 levels of motivation. All the others are subsets of these 7. So is it because she loves him? Well, that's the highest motivation of all. I call it charity, okay? Which comes from the Latin caritas, which means platonic love, brotherly love? Or is it because he drives a Maserati, he has his own yacht, and he flies his own Learjet and lives in a $5 million condo? See, that's a different motivation.
Right.
So figuring this out, spotting her motive on the scale could be the difference between them getting married and breaking up.
So in this,
Let me finish my sentence.
okay.
Either way, he will be happy as a clam, because it's the truth, and the truth resonates.
Right. So my question on this scenario that you've painted is he assuming what level she's at from her motivation for marriage, or how is he to know
Okay.
where she really falls?
Okay. First of all, the short answer is observation.
Okay.
If you listen to what the person says and watch what the person does, people tell you their levels.
Okay.
They tell you. It's not hard to figure out. And I could give you all kinds of examples. But to give you a more precise answer, the common denominator of all these scales is insight. Meaning it requires a certain amount of insight in order to use the scale. But it also develops your insight. So the more you use it, the more insightful you become. So the easier it is to use it. And the more you use it, the more insightful you become. So there's this snowball effect.
Right.
Where as you use this, your life becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. So I meet people sometimes online, and I can just tell from talking to the guy for 10 minutes where he is on a certain scale. Now, sometimes it's at high level, and I say, this is somebody I want to be a friend,
Okay.
Or be very low, and I might say, this is somebody I don't want to have anything to do with.
Okay.
See, either way, I'm better off.
Absolutely. So has this been accepted by like social science, or is this going to be a college course? Or, I mean, you know what I mean? It sounds so incredible to me. Has this been accepted? Are you in introducing it into social sciences, and like as a course or as a competency, like financial literacy or something?
Okay, so there's actually a couple of different issues there, and I'll try to address them all. First of all, you have to understand, the short answer is this has made no inroads that I'm aware of in any of the subjects. Now, there are particular people, like one of the hosts who I'm working with now is trained in psychology. I don't know what kind of a degree he has because I haven't asked him, but that's clearly his area of expertise. And he is eating this with a spoon, he's just lapping it up.
Okay.
So individuals get it. But I can't honestly say I made any inroads, because you probably already know that most people live in a box.
Absolutely.
Don't want to get out of that box. So this subject is a new box. Now I have to tell you, I tried for years to fit this into some other context, to make this a part of psychology or a part of philosophy or whatever. Couldn't do it. I finally had to realize what I thought from the beginning is this is a separate subject. Now, I am giving courses, online courses, through a variety of websites on this. It's like,
now, can we get it through Septemics.com, or at least find out about the courses there, or no?
Well, if you go to Septemics.com, you'll see a list of the 150 or so different interviews that I've given.
Okay.
Their name and the date that I gave it. Now, if you look at the ones that are listed more than once, those are the ones where they had me back and had me explaining the specific scales.
Okay.
Now, in some cases, I completed a whole series. Like I did like a half a dozen presentations, because it takes about 6 hours to explain all of them in a cursory way.
Okay.
But there are others that I'm just starting out on. So it's like at different stages with different hosts, you know.
Okay.
But I already sort of tried to make some kind of inroads into the society like this, and I got absolutely nowhere.
Okay.
And I don't mean this as a derogation, but the truth is, here's the problem with this book. Most people don't read books. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Of the people who do read books, most of them read fiction books. Of the ones who read nonfiction books, 90% of them are in a niche, meaning
Right.
psychologists read psychology books, mathematicians read mathematics books, historians read history books. This is not in any niche. It is a new niche. And anybody who studies this gets it. They get it right away. You don't have to go through the whole book to see that. You can get through like the first, 50 pages and say, wow, this is an entirely new thing. So I am teaching it on the internet, which is, let's face it, where it's at now. That's the all the old legacy media, the old university, all that stuff is decaying, is falling by the wayside, and the internet is the future. Okay, it's just getting better and better and broader. So we are the new pioneers as far as similar to what Gutenberg did with the printing press, but it's online,
Right. Yeah. I agree.
That's simple.
I hear you. I believe you. I'm going to get the book, and it's available everywhere. Amazon,
Barnes and Nobles.
Okay.
If you just type the word Septemics in a research engine, you get hundreds of responses, including all the people who are selling the book.
Got you.
Septemics.
All right. Well, I thank you greatly and appreciate your time. It is an amazing subject. It is unknown. We're helping to make it more known, and I'm happy to be able to do my part. And I'm also optimistic that you are going to be on Joe Rogan, and you'll be the new Jordan Peterson, and you and Jordan can talk about it. I would love to hear a conversation between you and Jordan Peterson.
So would I.
That would be amazing.
I have the highest regard for him. I mean,
yeah, he's a great modern philosopher. So I would love to hear that conversation. But with that, thank you so much, and we'll be right back.
Thanks, Derick.
Absolutely. So you learned something new right next to me. We both learned something new today, and I hope that you're interested enough to inquire. He made an amazing point. We live in a box. We very rarely are willing to go outside of our box to expand our knowledge, to expand our lives, to get solutions. And I'm going to encourage you to go outside your box. I mean, I didn't truly understand everything he said because I didn't read the book, and we didn't go over the scales. So between watching his videos on his website, and here it is again, Septemics.com, between that and reading the book, I encourage you to check it out. Check it out. And then if you start to find it helping you in your daily life, and then maybe in your family's life, and then in your community's life, that you'll start to share it with other people, that they can do the same thing, because we are all here to get better together. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Derick Gant. I want you to be your best. Bring your best. Leave nothing to chance.